Hello and welcome to the After Party. I'm No White Guilt, and I am with the Great Order. The Honors Roll Call highlights and celebrates those who have conscientiously committed to monthly gifts in my work for White Wellbeing. And appearing on the Honors Roll Call today are Darcy, Gregory and Wayne, and Numenko. Thank you all so very much. There's a special place in heaven for folks like yourself. I warmly appreciate your support, especially in these times, as the anti-whites are busily censoring me from every single platform. If you appreciate what I'm doing for White Wellbeing, please consider becoming a monthly gift giver. The more you gift, the less time I have to spend at my day job, and the more time I can spend for White Wellbeing, which includes hardening my positions on payment processors and social media platforms to prevent the anti-whites from silencing what they clearly now recognize as the most powerful message for White Wellbeing. As for the crown winner of last week, the crown goes to one of our well-known supporters and participants in the White Positive Sphere, 41 BMC, for gifting a total of 20 No You Will Not Shut Us Down dollars. Thank you so very much, dear brother. And in second place was another crowd favorite, Rum Rum, financially gifting $10. Thank you so very much as well. Financially gift on Entropy at 15%. And you should be able to find that link down in the description. It'll be /discipline with NWG, as Gardening with NWG, a good friend of ours channel through which we had been streaming, has been forever censored from YouTube by the anti-white bastards. You can also still financially gift on Cash App at 6%. And as you all know, Jared and I have made a commitment since the very beginning of TAP to share all the financial gifts with our guests on the after party. Now today we are welcoming a musician and artist extraordinaire. Hiraeth is on tap today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, dear lady. We are delighted to have you. Please introduce yourself to the esteemed audience and here in service to White Wellbeing, and then Mr. George will take us into the conversation.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Hiraeth, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I also work well within the White Art Collective community. I do some, I host a couple of different, I've hosted some live streams. I do a show called Friday Unplugged Now, where we bring on musicians and they do a live set and we talk about their creative processes and stuff. So.
Very cool. We can already hear the, Jared, you're still muted, the melody in your voice. And obviously, it's obvious that you are a singer, the exact opposite of me. But Mr. George is now unmuted, and his melodious voice is about to kick in for you all.
Oh, please. How is everybody today? Hiraeth, welcome to TAP. You were on a panel back when the White Art Collective YouTube channel got nixed in December. And now you join us on this fateful day when Gardening with NWG gets nixed. So there's something about that, Hiraeth. I don't know.
I hope I'm not bad luck.
No, not at all. It's funny how some things kind of have that symmetry. But welcome. It's great to speak to you. So now we have you all to ourselves. You were on that panel back then, and we've spoken a few times. I did actually a WAC panel in, I think it was late March. Yeah, late March. We talked about art versus propaganda, along with Jeff and Lord Wolfshield. So a 4-person panel. That was a cool show. If anyone wants to go check that out.
Yeah, it was a great discussion.
On my site. But we're going to talk about you. You're in the hot seat tonight. So inquiring minds want to know. We'll start at the beginning. What were your earliest influences and experiences with music?
Well, my I guess. Yeah, my earliest experiences, I guess, are different than my influences, because from like when I first can remember, my very first concert was actually NSYNC, so no bully.
No comment.
But yeah, I was like horrible pop music, and then it just went from that to like more of rock and grunge. And I'm not really sure like how that transition occurred. But I know that that Napster had something to do with it. The internet had something to do with it for sure. And because I was able to discover a lot of music I hadn't heard before, besides what was just playing on the radio. And I really was influenced by grunge music, and I got into punk rock and stuff like that too. So I guess my like heaviest influences would be like Nirvana, Mazzy Star, Radiohead, even like some post rock like Explosions in the Sky, but then also like 50s music too, because I really like the backups and just the how they use their voices as instruments with that. So
the harmony beds.
Yeah.
And what got you started playing music? What was that like?
Well, I started playing guitar sort of when I was like 15-ish. And I don't know, I kind of just like taught myself. I think I just wanted to like learn some power chords and just like learn to cover some songs. And so I did that, and I didn't really take it seriously. So I kind of just learned what I wanted to learn, and then I was like, I'm over this. And then sort of kept coming back to it. And so it was like sort of like that. And songwriting was actually the same way for me. But I wasn't like, I need to learn how to be a really awesome guitar player or singer or anything. It was just something that I just kind of wanted to pick up on a whim. And then I just kind of kept revisiting. And I actually did more singing prior to that because I was in like chorus and stuff like that in school. So
what were the first experiments with songwriting like? What kind of songs? What kind of style was it?
Gosh, it's like, I guess it was sort of indie. It was actually kind of similar to what I do now, but it was different at the same time. Because I just didn't really know what I wanted to say, I guess. I hadn't found my voice yet in that way. I mean, like, I sang very similarly, but, you know, as a songwriter, I hadn't found my voice yet, how I wanted to convey what it is I wanted to say. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say, so the lyrics and stuff just didn't really make sense. And they were just extremely vague.
You could get away with the 90s grunge thing.
Yeah, true.
Some of that stuff was like designed to not make sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Writing nonsense too.
Which is funny because I do love like lyrics. So I've always been into lyrics, and I guess so that's like the poet in me is like I really love a good set of lyrics, and I love concept albums too. So I guess it just took a while for me. I wrote some songs and like I recorded them and everything, but there's something missing. I wasn't really happy with it, and so I just sort of put it off on the back burner. And you know, it was just one of those things I didn't really fully embrace until about 2018. So, which is when I started the Hiraeth project.
Percolating in the background, and then 2018 it exploded.
Yes.
Jason.
Yeah, I want to know, when did you, I guess this is kind of a difficult thing because I can liken it to when I was playing sports. And I guess everybody can do this now. You can think back to when you had, Jared, you're going into the Matrix. You're going to come back out of the Matrix, my friend. Come back. Come back from the Matrix.
It's showing random close-ups of what's behind me. That's weird.
It must be because I'm here. It's like the glitching starts happening.
The power of the Matrix.
You call your sound ghost folk, so maybe there's a ghost in the machine.
It could be, yeah.
Jason, why don't you continue with your question? I'm gonna jump off.
Back out.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So, folks, he's going to be picking up the phone and being sucked out of the Matrix, and then he will log back into the Matrix. But my question is this: I mean, we all, I guess, have a moment where we discover, well, we're maybe this and that thing we are absolutely wretched at, but then over here, seem to have some ability here, and I liken it to like when I was playing. For one of the examples was sports, and everybody in the chat too, if you want to chime in with whatever it was that you have a talent at, you did maybe better than other things in your life, couple things or whatever it was, and when you first noticed those. But when you when I was playing sports, I noticed, well, one of the things I noticed right away was that I was, as far as running and agility and leaping, I was quite a bit better genetically than others, and I could outrun the black kids, which was amazing to everyone else. And then I said, okay, well, maybe I could be good at something involving sports. So it was quite a young age. What was it like for you? And around what age maybe did you discover that not only do you have a inclination, a desire, because there are plenty of things we desire. Like I love music. I love painting. I love sculptures. I can't sculpt. I mean, don't even let me near Play-Doh. I have no talent whatsoever. Plenty of things we like, but not necessarily have any innate ability. And I can definitely see the absence of that in myself. So first of all, what was it like for you? At what age that you said, hey, I have some talent here, seems to be more than other areas. And was that, what kind of a moment was that for you? Did you think, well, maybe I should keep going with this because not only do I like it, but I seem to have some talent here, some efficiency at it, I'm a bit adept at it. And was that like a moment where you thought, because there are a lot of things that can happen, especially with art and music making. It's like sports, the odds that you're going to go supernova are slim to none, because there are just so many out there that can also do. So it's a matter of how many eyeballs are out there to identify those who are talented and who have potential and this sort of thing. So what was it like for you? And around what age did you realize that you had a little bit of ability and that you could potentially nurture it and do something with it?
Sorry, there's some construction going on outside of my house, so if that's loud, I apologize.
No
but
worries.
Well, it started for me. I mean, I always liked to sing and stuff when I was younger. I thought it was like fun and it was just a good way to get out your energy and stuff. So I mean, even when I was really little, I liked to sing. But I think it's just creativity in general is something I've always felt compelled to do. I started more with drawing and art and painting, and actually did sculpting a little bit and stuff like that. So I like just creating, and I like being crafty in all sorts of different ways. So the songwriting and music, I didn't really discover that about myself until a little bit later. I mean, I could like get by and sort of teach myself certain things, but I guess like I said, I didn't take it seriously. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say as far as like a defining moment, because I guess it would have had to have been in like in 2018, where it's just kind of like, this is something I just started doing. I just felt like compelled to do it, and I just haven't stopped since. But before that, it was just creating in any sort of way. So I might pick up the guitar and play a song, or maybe write something, or I would paint or draw something, or even like start to grow plants, like grow a garden or something like that. So just anything that I felt was like creative in some sort of way. Maybe making jewelry or something like that too, even crafts. So I just liked to create anything. And then I guess music just became my main outlet in 2018, because I was sort of just processing everything like within myself and outside of myself. And it just became this like really perfect outlet for that. So, and then now I'm just wondering, I'm like, how did I go so long without writing like I do now? Because it just seems like now it's so almost like a necessity. So,
well, let me ask you this, and then I know Jared's got some great questions as well. But do you feel irrespective of whatever creative endeavor that you're engaged in, Do you feel that you are in a different state, or in a different, I guess we could just say, it seems kind of cliche, but different state of mind, a flow, a spiritual flow, a mental flow, an energetic flow, vis-a-vis. So when you're creating vis-a-vis something like making dinner, or cleaning the bathroom, the things we all have to do. Do you feel something is there? Because I definitely feel that something is different when I get into one of these creative. Most certainly when I was writing Prometheus Rising, which will be available in the next couple of weeks. Irrespective of what these anti-whites are trying to do to me, do you feel like there's a different state? There's a flow, and if so, can you speak to that a little bit? Because this is, and I know this is a hard question, because I've had Mr. George had me a couple times now, where he says, okay, explain the sensation, explain the flow. So I know it's sort of an ineffable thing, but nonetheless, it's sort of a shared experience, I think, for members of Western kind. We have, you and I have the exact same biospirit. So it's something that's really magical. We have this bond. When I was a child, I remember hearing about this, like blood brothers, and you would cut your hand and the other guy would cut his hand, and then you would shake your hands, and then you were magically blood brothers. And it meant there was some kind of a deeper bond. But that's so superficial compared to the bond that we actually share with all other members of Western kind, certainly those who are in service to our well-being. So when you feel this flow, are there any sort of words that you would put to it? And it doesn't have to be particularly, it's something that is significant, but your explanation of what you feel, at least at this moment, you can provide future explanations. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
no, that's all right. It's actually a really great question. So
yeah, so you can just, however you want to interpret that right now, that flow or that sensation. Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah, I definitely would say it's a different state of mind when you're creating something, or like when I'm writing a song, or if I'm like, I'm writing something and I'm really just getting into it. It's definitely a different state of mind, and it's almost like it's a type of exploration is the way I see it. So it's like I'm exploring something and I'm going somewhere I've never been before, even though I'm sitting in the same spot, just doing my thing. So. And it's fun in that way, because it's like you can kind of, if you have a curious mind, you can just sort of let it go, like let it go and see where you end up, and you take yourself wherever you end up, and it's just it sort of just flows out of you, and it's just something that you kind of have to do, and you're not even necessarily thinking about, okay, where am I going? You're just like, I just need to explore this and see what happens. And sometimes it can end up being really just different than what it started as. I mean, you never know, So I just see it as more of like an exploration.
So you didn't have like a specific sound or style that you sat down and said, I want to go for this. It was more that you found it by just playing around. Because I know there's artists always talk about some tend more towards the one or the other. There's always some degree of intention. Obviously, if we all have influences, even if they're more subconscious and just kind of in the background. But I know some artists really have a plan, and I want to combine this and that, even if it's something that's not quite been done before. They still have a roadmap. And some artists are totally just kind of play and explore and let it surprise them. So you would say you tend more towards the exploratory method?
When I write, I do. I mean, I've been told about like things that are influences that people hear, and this is true. Like I've been influenced, especially by a lot of bands I used to listen to that I don't listen to anymore. But if I'm like talking about if that inspires me to write, it's like I don't feel inspired by those bands. But I could see why they would be an influence in my music or in my sound, if that makes any sense. Like Nirvana or Mazzy Star, for instance, I know that there are things that my music has that are can be similar, or you could hear in that. But do I think like I need to sound this way? I'm like, no, I don't really think like that at all. It's more of just whatever comes out, and it's just sort of I guess that's just the influence that I've had that I picked up from when I was younger, that I don't really think about much now.
Yeah. I know you were getting at this a little bit before with Jason's question, but we wanted to get into what creativity, the role that creativity plays in your life in general. And I know that's a bit of a general question, but I don't know, before we get more specific, is there anything you can speak to, even with something that general, just the role creativity plays in your life?
I mean, it's a very important role in my life. So I don't think. I mean, I kind of feel like if I didn't create anything, I'm almost like, what's the point of living? Like, it's just like I really enjoy it, and I like. I mean, it's something so fun. Like it's like I said, it's that exploration. Like it's discovering, just even the thought of discovering something new and in some kind of way where you're creating something and you're like, maybe this like actually hasn't been done before, because there's so many things now where it's all been done before. So I feel like there's so much that's like just being repeated and repeated and repeated. And so I like the idea of coming up with new genres, for instance, because I can't even keep up with all the genres that exist. But and I'm really bad at that too. But I think it's cool to like try to come up with something new that hasn't been done before, if possible.
Well, that's that's very Western. That's very us. Even though, do you feel that there's a tension between that drive for innovation versus the tradition, especially in the circles we run in? There's a lot of talk about tradition. So how do you harmonize those drives?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's a tough one because I'm not really sure if I have an answer, because I mean, I guess I feel like if you're being honest and you're expressing yourself to the fullest extent, then you're going to be speaking to that, like what you guys probably would call the biospirit or the folk soul or something like that. I think you'll speak to that if you're just doing some sort of pure creative expression. And I think that kind of also speaks to tradition, in that way. So, yeah. But I guess it just depends on how you see tradition, Is it something that you feel confined to where you have to be within a certain parameter, or is it something that's just very folkish and it's more of the lifestyle that you should be living as like just as the person that you are within your folk, you know what I mean? So I'm not really sure. Yeah.
It could provide a backdrop, but at the same time, when our ancestors made folk music, they were still making it for their day and age. It was still a product of their time, their instruments, and things might not have progressed as quickly, but we also live in a technological age where we're sharing all of this music and these ideas, and it just, with the click of a button, it travels around the world, and you hear something someone else is doing and it mixes with what you were thinking, and then you have something new. So I get what you're saying, and I think that drive for us to explore is always going to be there, and it's something that we have to learn how to deal with. I definitely know what you mean about genres. I think to some extent, every great band or every great musical artist is kind of a mini genre unto themselves. They create a sound. Like the best thing for an artist, every musician knows not everyone's going to like what you do, but if you hear a band, you hear a guitar player, and you know it's them just within a few bars, like that to me is that's the goal, that's the ultimate thing, the ultimate compliment, that you have a signature, that you're not just another player. I mean, if you're a creative artist, this is the funny thing, even within music, there are different kinds of musicians. There are more musicians that are like craftsmen, like the guy that can sit in with a wedding band and knows 1,000 songs off the top of his head and can read the sheet music and all that. Not to say that there's not a signature you could put on that or a degree of creativity, but it's a different thing than staring at a blank piece of paper or staring at silent speakers and then creating a song where there was not a song before.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually really bad at memorizing stuff like that. So I couldn't do what those like wedding singers and stuff do.
Yeah. So you said you taught yourself guitar. So you don't have formal training. Do you read music, or is it all just intuitive?
Well, I mean, I did take guitar lessons for like 2 years, and I did learn how to read music, but it didn't really stick. So could I read something? I mean, maybe, but I'd need to refresh my memory. So yeah, I guess now it's more intuitive. I just pretty much translate things from like guitar and to a keyboard and stuff with my guitar tuner and the notes, and I know the notes on a keyboard, so I mean, it's basically intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little about your collaborations, because you have your acoustic material, but then you've done electronic as well. What's happened, like using your voice in a different way, collaborating with different producers, hearing your voice in this mix with this different kind of music? Well, tell us all about that.
It's been really awesome and interesting, actually. I love collaborating, and that's something that White Art Collective has, like, really helped me with, because I would have never been able to collaborate with so many artists had it not been for Jeff and White Art Collective. But it's been really cool to hear all these different sounds, because I would have never been able to create that kind of music on my own. And every collaboration is different. So it's just like the songwriting thing. When you're collaborating with someone, it's a different type of exploration, and you're doing it with someone and you're feeling it out and trying to, work together in just an interesting sort of way. Because, I don't make the electronic music. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's really different, depending on who you're collaborating with. And everybody has a different vision, and so it's really cool to kind of get to take part in their process as well with songwriting. So I feel like when you collaborate, you get to do that. You can write with somebody, and you get an inside view of like what their process is like, to an extent.
Has any of that thus far changed or added to how you write songs when you're alone?
Interesting question. Maybe. I mean, I guess probably in some way, maybe some way I'm not even aware of, but like consciously, I can't really say. I'm sure they've influenced me, in some sort of way, but not on a conscious level. So.
Mm-hmm. And what is your recording setup like? And we don't need to get too geeky with people that don't know about it, but any overview you can give of what it's like in Hiraeth studio, how this all comes to be?
Oh, my studio is super fancy. Let me tell you, it's a Yeti microphone and a laptop.
Recorded at Abbey Road Studios in London.
Yeah, I've got a MIDI controller and a guitar and a tambourine and some sticks that I use in my songs sometimes, which are actually just 2 dogwood sticks that I got from outside. That are dried up, and they just make this perfect like clinky sound that I was looking for one day, and I just started hitting things together, and I was like, this is it, this is the sound I need.
Hey, limits.
Yeah, I mean, it's very do-it-yourself studio kind of thing. So
what recording software do you use?
I use Personia Studio One, and then I also use Reaper. They're like 2 different DAWs, like digital audio workstations, and they're both free, but I guess Studio One is really good with the instruments they give you if you want to add any like synth backing or bass or something like that. And I started with that, so I was used to recording with it. But then Reaper is really good with mixing and mastering stuff, so I kind of use that for that.
Oh, they sound good. It's you do the mixing mastering as well?
I do, and that's been a process.
Yeah.
Learning how to do that.
Yeah, using computers with recording is a weird thing, because sometimes you just want to make the music, and then you're sitting there like figuring something out and going to look at YouTube tutorials, and it takes you out of your creative process. But
right, it makes it work instead of like that. It's just like you go from like this curious mind, I'm exploring and having a good time just trying to do that, and then it's like, and then you go straight into like, all right, this is like analytical work mode where I have to figure out how to like mix and master all this stuff. But it's something that I'm glad that I'm learning how to do. And it's interesting in its own sense. I have a whole new respect for sound producers and stuff. Because it's not easy.
Again, I don't want to geek out and bore people that aren't into this, but just suffice it to say, you don't just put a microphone up to a band and press record. I mean, you could spend a whole day just getting the right sound on a drum kit,
right?
Where the mics are placed and what mics you use and what kind of processors they're running through before they go to whatever you're recording onto, and even the cables you use can change it. And everything. Right.
It makes a difference. I mean,
variables.
People that are really good live, if it's a really bad recording, it could potentially make them sound bad. But I mean, and it can work both ways. I mean, I guess if you're really good and you've got it, something might still come through regardless of the equipment you have or the recording that it is. Like, I still like these old rough recordings of bands, like bootlegs and stuff. I like that stuff, but and something still does come through, I think, but it does make a difference to have the mic set up the right way, the gain and everything. And I guess the better equipment you have, the better it's going to be.
That's a two-edged sword though, but because in the day and age of digital recording, I think it becomes a sport where it's like, let me make the perfect airtight, like there's no extra noise and all this. And in that process, they can easily make a sonically good, but emotionally sterile recording. And I would rather, I like analog tape. I mean, I want to eventually record in a studio with analog tape, but might have to do some other stuff first. Jason, you look like you're rearing to go. Question: what is up, my friend?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was just agreeing ardently. I'm kind of sitting back from the mic because I can't find any microphone controls on Firefox.
Your mic is hot. Speaking of recording today,
so I'm sitting back a bit from the microphone. I don't know how far I need to be back. Is it still hot when I'm all the way back here?
No, that's good. Is it the output, guys? Tell me, is my mic hot as well, or is it just Jason?
Well, your sound sounds fine to me. So, and Hiraeth's voice is absolutely mellifluous. So it must just be my microphone. I looked for the mic control that I normally have access to when running on a different engine, but on Firefox, it seems it has deleted that part of my Windows screen where I see the ability to adjust. So I don't know. I'll keep looking for it, but I was just really agreeing with. I like the 100% this taking a sound music from what it is naturally and then turning it into this like sterile thing on the other end. That ruins it for me as well. I like it to be more realistic, more like when Donald Kent was, I guess, in his basement with or garage for the one song that he had written. I think he's here, and perhaps he can mention the name of the song. It escapes me at the moment. But I actually really liked that it sounded like it was in a basement or a garage. I thought that was raw and kick-ass. When they take these sounds, and I get it. I mean, if you want to, you want to have a version of it where it's really sterile, that's fine. That's cool. And you can hear everything as exactly as all these little pieces separated with sound when they're then mashed back together. But it makes me think about, and I just want to just speak for this for a minute, because the artists like Hiraeth here, and Donald Kent and all of our other wonderful artists in service to white well-being, they're demonstrating their real talent. These are individuals who are in some cases completely isolated, doing everything themselves. Hiraeth right now is talking about having to mix sound and mix music and learn about all of these, put another hat on, talking about wearing a hat today, put another hat on. She should be this songwriter hat one moment and then writing the chords the next moment and then mixing it together the next moment. All these people, Fernola's here, does that geniusly. Luke Mason, geniusly. I mean, it just blows me away, the sort of talent and ability these people have. And what really has to be appreciated, so I just wanted to take a pause to say this for a moment, is that they are producing content that is professional content, stuff that we have never seen in the white positive sphere before. But back decades ago, we did have like this death metal sort of stuff, and it was, which is fine if for those who are really into that. But even then, the quality and the sort of professionalism was missing in most songs and most bands. I mean, there were a few here and there. I have some old CDs of that stuff and cassettes. We used to give, I probably handed out more than 1,000. If I handed out more than 1,000 cassettes and CDs over the years of these different bands. So I listened to all this stuff. I rode around in the back seats of cars while they were playing this stuff in the car on the cassette, and we had stacks of white positive literature to hand out in our laps. But we now have folks who are either by themselves or they collab with one or two others. When you see the stuff that, and this, it's still nonetheless, it's radio quality, like Mr. George has said before. Somebody who knows a lot about music, radio kind of stuff you would hear on the radio. Many of these pieces by our folks.
I think Jeff was saying that.
Jeff said it too. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought I saw maybe Jeff was here too. And hello to you, brother, if you're here as well. But what you have normally. Oh, and this is something I think one of the first times we spoke with Jeff, Jared, that we briefly touched upon. What normally hits your radio, ladies and gentlemen, what normally hits, the counter for sale is something that has gone through teams of people, you find out, like I remember, I more than once, but there's one instance that that's coming to mind. I wish I could remember the name of because of how stunned I was. Somebody brought my attention to it. It was some rapper, and, just some black person, just totally wonderful, talking about the things that they talk about in their songs, and, gave up his career that he would have been, I'm sure, much better at brain surgery to be a rapper, I'm sure. And we'll hear about that story one of these days. And instead he became a rapper. And so I thought that he must be maybe him and like one other black guy. No, in fact, there were teams of white guys that were in the background making beats, experimenting with beats, working on all the digital stuff. And I was just like, whoa.
They do all the engineering to make it sound like it sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just like, hold on. I thought, it was just like, so they would say this one guy, he came and this one black guy, he's a great, he comes up with all these great beats, and he shows up, and it was him and then like a team of like 4 white guys. One of them was Jewish, and they're the ones that make the hot beats for the rap songs. So these are teams of people making this music happen. We have individuals. So talk about the talent that is actually coming through. And this is something that I think, as we're getting shorter on time here, that I would like Hiraeth, if we don't get another opportunity before the end, maybe speak some positive words, Hiraeth, to those out there who have some talent or who are exploring and who are already quite skilled and they're thinking about it. Maybe give some inspiration to them that they can do it too. They can make this happen, and we've got a growing community here, and they can get known for their talents now, instead of having to try to break into the regime's music world and be as anti-white and vulgar and disgusting. You can embrace something that is holy and do something magnificent with your music. It doesn't have to look a specific way. It can look whatever way you want it to look. But some inspirational words for those folks would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess I can start with myself when I say that, like, when I first started writing songs in 2018, I didn't expect anybody to hear those songs. It was just kind of on a whim. I just put them on YouTube. And then I think one of my first subscribers was actually Big Cat Kayla. And I'll never forget that, which was really cool of her, because I commented on like one of her Twitter posts where she had posted like some really amazing looking food she made. And she checked out my page and she saw a song I posted and she subscribed to me. And I was like, that's so awesome. Because I had listened to her like comfy tangents that she's done on her streams. And I thought that was really, really cool. And Philosophicat was another, like one of the first people to support me. And then it just kind of started to grow a little bit gradually. And I've gotten a lot of support from our community. which I didn't expect. Like I said, I didn't really expect anybody to even hear it. So the fact that people heard it and liked it or could relate to it it really meant a lot. It still means a lot. And then once I joined the White Art Collective, that was like a whole other level of awesomeness, because I finally felt like I had found my home as an artist. Like I said, I get to collaborate with other artists. We encourage each other. We're not like competing against each other. We all have different styles, which is really cool. So we can learn from each other. Some people are really good with sound production and with these recording programs, and other people might be really good with playing guitar. Just their skill levels like insane. And there's just so many different things that we're all good at in different ways, and it's really cool to see, and we all encourage each other, so it's like one big family. So my advice to anybody that's very creative is, just keep at it and reach out to White Art Collective, because Jeff's always looking for people. We're always looking to expand beyond. So yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome experience.
We actually have a question from Handsome Horse about your songwriting, asking what comes first, melody, chords, or lyrics?
Usually the guitar, like the guitar chords and melody, but not always. There's been times where I've actually written the lyrics first. But generally speaking, I think the guitar comes first, and then it'll be the vocal melody. I'll just start kind of humming to some guitar that I've written. And then the lyrics will come last, and that's usually how it goes. So,
right, kind of phonetically fitting in. We wanted to hear a little bit about what it's been like being an artist in this dissident scene. You spoke a little about being in White Art Collective, and you can certainly speak to that more if you'd like. That's the positive. Also, if there's any challenges in sharing it, like where your music is in just on normal platforms. Like we all know there's Bandcamp, SoundCloud, there's other things. I know Liberplay was recently started by some guys who it seems like they're more sympathetic to our view. So
yeah.
what has that been like, and what do you see happening there? Like the ways to share music, especially with those who might not be directly in our circles. We were talking to Jeff about this as well last week, about trying to just get out there to people that are maybe apolitical even.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a challenge, because yeah, I mean, I think that you get more support. You get actually more support within the dissident sphere, just because it is a tight community, and we all have this like understanding of one another, But at the same time, that can, in a sense, box you in as an artist, because if you're very explicit about your views, especially politically, then it's going to put off a lot of people, even people that aren't, I wouldn't even say they're like anti-white at all. It's just people that just are not political, like you said, apolitical, or I think it might be a little bit off-putting to them, or it could potentially be. So I guess there's a place for that, and it just depends on the artist and the style and the genre. And then, the more explicit and more political you are, the harder it's going to be to stay on certain platforms like Bandcamp or YouTube, for instance, or stuff like that. I've noticed that a lot of people use Spotify, which is something I've never even used. So, but I guess Spotify is really popular, and that's what Liberplay is supposed to be. They're like the free speech platform that's, I guess, similar to Spotify, if my understanding is correct. And I'm on there, Four Knowles on there, Mamas and the Pepes, several other whack artists are on there. So,
and we'll get all the platforms you're on at the end where people can get your material. We were talking about production before, so I'm just curious if you just there's a quick on-the-spot question. Any favorite production, like the way certain albums were made and just the sound that hits that nice balance we were talking about before between sonic fidelity on the one hand, but also the human emotion still coming through? Any albums that are touch points for you?
I'm not sure. Because I mean, anything you mean like of any musicians?
Yeah, well, just the production, the way,
Yeah.
because recording itself is an art. You know, they say the recording studio is an instrument in and of itself, as we were talking about earlier. So in terms of, you know, now that we live in this day and age where we have multi-track recording, that's only existed less than a century. You know, musicians have this ability now that painters have had with canvases for much longer, for centuries longer, where you can record, you can lock in time this song, and that itself is an art form. So I'm particularly interested about recordings, albums that are ones that have the kind of production that the whole thing, the whole stew just comes together and it hits you. It's a reference point for you.
Ah, gosh, that's a hard one. I have to think about it. I guess, speaking of like,
back to it if nothing comes to mind, you can tell us
we're
at the end.
thinking of just production. I mean, because it's hard because I didn't actually really think about the production at all until I started to learn how to do that. Because when I first started recording, I didn't even realize there was like a mic gain like knob on the back of my microphone. And so I'm wondering why I'm getting this distortion with the guitar or whatever. I'm like, maybe I just need to sit back further, but I could have just adjusted that and I didn't even know I could do that. But I've come a long way. There's always so much to learn, but I have come a long way since the very beginning. And I think it's opened my ears up a lot in ways that like I didn't have before. So it's like thinking back now on albums I've listened to, it's hard to say production wise because I didn't have that ear for it then. You know what I know? You know what I mean? But now it's like I'm developing an ear for it. And if I were to re-listen to certain albums, I'd probably pick up on things in ways that I hadn't before, if that makes sense.
You said you like concept albums. Any concept albums you could rattle off?
Well, I don't know if I guess you'd consider it a concept album maybe, but I like Lateralus by Tool.
Yeah.
So
I remember that was big. We want to talk a little bit about something else you're branching out into, which is you're doing more stream hosting. So what is your approach to that? Because there's kind of an art form and some people put their own stamp on streaming. I really liked when you did the Kai Morrow stream when he was your guest and Jack White was co-hosting, and how you guys put together a slideshow where even though it was audio only, no one was on camera like Jason and I are now. So you did slides that went along with the themes. You knew what you were going to talk about. I mean, you didn't know what Kai was going to say exactly, but you knew the questions. And so you had this slideshow and it really worked well. So I'm curious how that came up and just overall what your vision is of how you want to participate in this grand conversation that we're all having in this scene as well.
Yeah, well, the hosting thing, it wasn't really planned. I guess the hosting in general started when I pitched the show to Jeff for Friday Unplugged Now. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if we had this show where we could get artists to come on and play like a live set or something, sort of like MTV Unplugged, but within our sphere, and talk about their creative process too, because I'm really interested in that. Just as an artist, I want to know like what drives other people to create the things they create. I think it's really interesting. And he was like, that's a great idea. You should totally host it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it just like started with that. But I don't feel like a natural host. I actually get really nervous about it. And the Kai Murrows thing was such an honor to do that. That actually started, I wanted to use a sample of one of his speeches for my song, and Jack White got up with him on Facebook, and he like gave the go ahead. He heard the song and loved it, and then I needed to reach out to him to put him in the track title for the album Home, which is my second album, and so I got his email address and we started talking back and forth, and he was like, yeah, that would be great. And we were just talking about art and culture and stuff. And then we became friends, and we just sort of, I asked him if I was able to convince him to do an interview, because at the time he said he didn't do interviews. And I was like, I know you said you don't do interviews, but I just think that, it'd be really cool to hear your take on this stuff. And I think that you have a lot of things to say that people need to hear. And he's got different stances on things different takes that other people don't have. So, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I was like, really? So that's kind of how that all came to be. With the images, I edited the interview. We did it pre-recorded, and then I edited it, and I found the images to go with the topics of conversation we were discussing, and I just.
All right, that makes a little more sense, because I was like, this is real. This is. I thought you were doing it live. I was like, man, how did they put this together? Okay.
Yeah, that would have been very.
It was a stream on D-Live. You
Yeah.
played the pre-recorded show on D-Live. Okay.
Yes, that was.
I got it. It looks like I'm taking myself off of camera now because
You're back in the Matrix.
It froze me on my funny little smirk there. I don't know what's going on, but we'll ride it out like this.
Uh-oh. Your sound is even going. How's my mic? I think I may have it. Is my mic still?
Sounds good on my end.
All right. Somebody wrote a little earlier, I saw somebody said, Jason's mic is bigger than his head. I've heard that before. All right. We have while Jared tries to fix his situation here. And Seaver says, good to see you, brother. My audio is much better. Well, good. Audio sounds fine. There's Donald. Great to see you, brother. We do have some financial gifts. So we will take a look at these really quick. And we have a 41 BMC, $10 financial gift. Thank you, my dear friend. Great participant in the community. And writing great guests today. Hails. Well, Promethean hails to you as well, dear brother. Let's go ahead and refresh this while I'm looking over at this machine and one of its screens to see if we have anything over there or not. And it is blank. So let's go over here. And we have on entropy. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the discipline with NWG entropy. And you will find that link down in the description. Apparently, some are able to see the video, others are not. So you let me know whether you can see the video over there or not. And we will be working with the great team in entropy to rectify any struggles that we're having, any challenges. But we have Lord Wolfshield with a great name over here, financially gifting $10, another great participant, and great to see you, dear brother. And making a suggestion that Hiraeth should collab on a song with Jared George. That would be great. We want to bring Jared forward with.
I think I need to put out some of my own first. I'm working on it, Lord Wolfshield. I know he's anticipating it. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, then, so we're halfway there. So very good. Thank you very much, Lord Wolfshield. And we also have a question in the Tall Kevin widget over here, the question widget on entropy. Volkish Warrior asking a question, and it's a bit off topic, so I will just address it quickly, and then we will see if Hiraeth or Jared has any comments to add to what I say in response. And that is, was just looking at Trump's Twitter, and he posted this today. All I could think of was the demographics in that image. How can we reverse it? And the image is this, that you can see Mrs. Donald in the middle of this wonderful crew of young engineers and astronauts, and taking actually a little break off of their studies to walk on Saturn. And below the massive cloud, since it's a gaseous giant, below that mass, somewhere there's a core, and they're going to walk on it. And so they've taken some time off from those studies. One other thing I would mention just to this is that this is mean pathogens. These are mean pathogens at work. You've seen with Democrats and Republicans, irrespective, for a great many years, that when they're talking about the youth, when they're talking about the future, when they're talking about saving a mind should never go to waste, when they're talking about those who need to be protected, when they're talking about all of these things, when they're talking indeed about humanity, every single time they talk about humanity, they show non-white children. It's not, and the message there is that these are the ones we all have to protect. These are the special ones. This is the future. These are the vulnerable ones. These are the ones we have to do endlessly for. So there's a message there. Those are MPs that we are subjected to over the totality of our lives, that is conveying also the opposite of what I just said. It is saying your white children are not important. Your white children are not the future. Your white children's minds, it's okay to waste those. So something we learned, there's a lot there in that packed in, and we could talk for a whole hour, a whole show just about that single image, and still find threads to draw out. But the question really that is that you're asking here about the demographics and how can we reverse it. The question of how do we reverse it is not a question that we ask and answer in and of itself. There are a great many questions that content producers in the white positive sphere will ask that are questions whose answers which depend on the context in which the questions are asked. And therefore, they are always going to be faulty answers. Therefore, it's always going to be something the answers are something the anti-whites can always use against us. The answers to the demographic issues for our people are rolled up, and therefore, if the answers are there, the questions are there, are rolled up in the activity of spreading the curative contagion of going free. So the answer to the question is go free yourself, work on it, work with that workbook every single day. Go back into those old movies, look for those mean pathogens, and then help everyone around you to go free. And it's the same issue. Like if you want to, in business, if you want to make more money, take care of your customers. If you want to address a demographics issue, go free, and go free. Those are the answers to all of those things. Help everybody around you to do it. We're running out of time, not just in this show, but in the life and existence of the great people known as Western kind. So those are, I think, let me come over here. And Hiraeth, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say to that, or if you had anything you wanted to say to the potential collab with the Mr. George in the future. And if you've ever even thought about that before, a collab with him, or actually, do you have any other potential collabs on the back burner that we're going to hear about in the coming weeks or months?
Sure. Well, I don't really have anything to speak to the question. I think you answered it very well. But I would, of course, be willing to collab with Jared George. But like he said, he wants to come out with his own stuff first. So I completely understand. I was actually thinking a while back of maybe using one of his poems for a song. So that is another way we could collab if he would be interested in something like that. But yes, there are other collabs on the back burner, or, in the works, I guess you could say. I'm working on something with Hallandir, and I'm also working on something with Sebastian Vilmark, who is we call him metal cello, but he's our cello artist. He does a lot of cello solo works. So
that sounds really exciting. Now, this is the thing. Yeah. I mean, when we had Jeff on the other day, and folks, we're about to be wrapping up today. And so if you have any final questions or financial gifts, you make it happen quickly. Tag me as No White Guilt in the chat here on YouTube. That's how I'll be able to see my name light up in orange for any questions or comments. But it's the kind of thing that I want us to have when we're disparaged. It's going to be called like a ghettoizing, but really it's an enclaving where we make a party, where we bring a bunch of artists together and we're creating a culture, and it's infused with a psychological defense for the psychological warfare waged against us. And folks will say, hey, I hear a thumping song, a great guitar riff. I see a wild party going on over there in that enclave. I want to see what's going on. And people get excited about that. What kind of influence do you think that has on the average person when they see a bunch of people coming together, talented artists, making music, making art of various types, having a good time, loving each other, not using any of the old stereotypical verbiage and dialectics that were attributed to us in the past, and just being a new people out of this deracinated race. What kind of influence do you think that has on those who are just coming across our circles, our spheres for the first time?
I personally, I think that, you know, people see something like that and they're like, I want to be a part of that, because they're like, that's something that I'd like to experience in a world where, you know, people are being, especially like the white man is being condemned in just about every sort of way. And when you look at anti-white advertisements and stuff like that, they're looking for a sense. I mean, I think everybody in some sense wants a sense of belonging, and they see people having a good time, and it's like their people, their folk, and there's not really, if they're not really thinking about politics, it's not like I'm taking a strict stance here, but it's just people playing music and getting along and having a good time and supporting one another. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that, you know?
Amen. That's exactly how I feel, and there's no doubt that that's happening, because more and more continue to pop over, and this scene is going to grow, and we're going to continue to steer it in the direction of white well-being. We're not going to allow anti-white influences to infiltrate. Rest assured, we'll call anything like that out as soon as it shows up, because everywhere else you can be anti-white, just not here. Not here in service to white well-being. We did have like Volkish Warrior asking me to remind everybody that we will be having some fantastic examples of that music coming up in just an hour at 7:15 on the No White Guilt channel. Make sure you don't miss it. It will also be streamed to this channel and to D Live and all of these other platforms. One of the performers that have appeared there numerous times is Hiraeth. I don't think she's on the garage party this week, but she will definitely be again in the future. And do we have Mr. George back?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. As Donald Kent said in the chat, the internet gremlins, the computer gremlins are messing with me today, but at least we got most of the show in. So I was listening to the last few minutes, but I am here, and hopefully I can help us land this plane.
Yes, sir. Bring us in. We're running out of in the final minutes here. Did you have a final question or comment for Hiraeth?
No, we wanted to go over what's coming up. You already mentioned Martel at 7:15. At 8 o'clock, Fornull has his White Rock Party show, White Rock Hour, something to that effect. Fornull, tell him what it is in the chat. That's at 8 on the D Live, the WAC D Live. And then next Friday, you're doing a show you mentioned, Hiraeth. Friday night Unplugged, right?
Friday Unplugged now.
Friday Unplugged now.
Yes.
That's fun. That's
fun,
the acronym,
exactly.
fun. And a guy we just spoke to who made his big comeback, Josh Neal, is going to be playing a live set.
He is, yeah. He actually, he's got a couple originals and some covers he's going to do, and we're going to talk about music and his process and what that's been like, and it'll be a good time. So
yeah, so a couple things tonight, and then next Friday you have that, the fun.
And I think
so
Jeff
programming.
I think Jeff, you know, of the White Art Collective, he's actually going to be a guest at 11 p.m. tonight on Ralph Retort. Is that the name of the show?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
Yes. Okay. So he's going to be on at 11 on his channel. So.
Yeah, Fridays are becoming very busy nights in our circles. I think we're kind of owning Fridays.
Yeah, indeed.
Our thing. Thank God it's Friday. I saw people saying today about all of this action going on. Definitely second what I heard you guys saying the last few minutes about everything growing. And then, Hiraeth, why don't you just tell us where people can find you? You have 2 albums out. So you have those. Or, not counting the collaborations, are the solo songs that you have on your YouTube, are all of those on one of your 2 albums? Or are some songs kind of singles and not on one of those albums?
I think there's only 1 or 2 songs that aren't on any of the albums. Really, I can think of only 1 at the moment, or actually 2. We Are the West and Star-Crossed. But I did just put the newest song that I just came out with a couple days ago, Quarantine, that is on Bandcamp. So both of my albums and then that song is a single, those are all on Bandcamp. The first album is free for download. And then my second album, you can listen to that for free either on YouTube or on SoundCloud. So I'm also on SoundCloud as well. And you can find me in my YouTube, which is Hiraeth Music. And all of my other links should be in that main thing. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Gab, Facebook, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud, and BitChute.
So all of those links are on your YouTube About page.
Yes, they should be.
All right. And for anyone listening to the replay on me and Jason's respective sites and also our shared site, theafterparty.tv, Hiraeth's links will be in this show's post once it is all up. And I remind everybody, especially in light of today's events, where one of Jason's backup channels, Gardening, got nixed. And I swear I was thinking about this before and the last few days, but Hiraeth, the fact that you're a musician, it makes this metaphor even better. I hope it doesn't sound cheesy, but we really do need all of you to think about the community and the people who are speaking, not the platform. And one little way I had of thinking about this is you follow a band, you don't follow a venue. So if you're used to seeing a band at a certain venue and then a new venue, a different theater, concert hall opens up on the other side of town, and this weekend your favorite band is going to go play at that theater, you don't show up at the old theater, you go to the new theater. So we really please, and guys, help us understand what your experience is. Help me, tell me, write to me, because I do a lot on the TAP site, and we're trying to make it so that we are not going to be hurt so badly when we get deplatformed. I know it's a bit of an adjustment, but tell us how we can help. But we're really trying to make it so that TAP site, you go there and you can see where the links are for the latest show. Not today because of the gardening situation, but usually Entropy is embedded there. You can watch it right on the site. We have our social media links. Jason's had a Telegram for a while. I just started a Telegram there. You can follow all the links. We make announcements, but we want it to be so that you feel that nimbleness and that flexibility where the site is the main thing that you check. And then it could be, okay, we're going to be on YouTube this week, or we're only going to be on DLive this week, or we're going to be on this new platform this week. The platform doesn't matter. The community matters. But like I said, let me know if you have feedback about that, because most people, you guys are still all just waiting for YouTube notifications. And even when you're subscribed, most of you tell us you don't get the notifications. But then we have stuff like this going on. The main channel has strikes. Gardening just got taken down. We all know my first channel got taken down last year. Guys, we're not going to be on YouTube forever. So we really need to all be smart and figure some stuff out. So let me know if you have any feedback, but try to get that metaphor in your head of it's not the venue, it's the artist. That's what but it's not a perfect metaphor, because unlike that, we're all a community and everyone's participating, doing their own thing. So
it's a great way to put it.
It's a little different than that, but it's a quick pithy way to put it. So share that around and let me know any feedback about what we can do to make this better and easier for you. But we have to I ask you, wean yourself off of just going and checking YouTube and waiting for your YouTube notifications. It's not viable. That is my speech on that. Other than that, my site is thegreatorder.com. Go find my stuff there, support, links, all that good stuff. But I've said my piece. Hiraeth, it was great to speak to you tonight. Fascinating getting under the hood of your creative process and what's behind all these songs. Thank you for your great work, and I know we'll speak soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. For anybody listening, please support these two gentlemen, as well as White Art Collective. These are all, these are people who are supporting all of us and giving a platform and a voice to people who might not have been discovered otherwise. And Red Ice is another good example of that too, which is really, really important. So please support them because they're awesome. So thanks for having me. It's been an honor.
No, it's our honor. And thank you so much for saying that. Very kind of you. And we're going to do this as a team. And we're all going to stand shoulder to shoulder and recapture our destiny so that our children and children's children are not going to go through the hell of psychological torture that we have had to go through, and will continue to get worse if we don't do what has to be done. There is no support shaming in this corner of the white positive sphere. It happens elsewhere. But when people are out there, good people like Hiraeth, Fernal, Donald Kent, Jeff, they're all of them, when they're producing this content, there is no support shaming. You give them a pat on the back if you can to give them anything else. Where you can give them $1, you give them $1, and you support the things that they're doing, not because you're going to make anybody rich, but because you're just simply saying thank you. And that is what a good and moral and decent person does. And that's what we are here. The advanced placement of the white positive sphere. I want to say a big thank you to Ray, who has shown up today. Great to see you back, brother, moderating the live chat on discipline. Big salute to you. Big salute to everybody who financially gifted today. I thank you so very much for gifting to White Wellbeing, and everybody who is also commenting in the live chat today. Thank you all very much for participating. And whether watching live or in replay, if you're new to this community, welcome, welcome. Everyone who serves White Wellbeing is welcome here. And all of these stereotypes in the anti-white narrative do not apply. You can speak, or you can just sit back like a wallflower and watch and listen and enjoy. That's fine as well. Remain anonymous if that's what you want to do. That's fine as well. We're glad to have you here. And big thank you to Mr. George for everything he does to make these tap shows a success. We had, what was his name, asking if, I think it was something like Volkish Warrior, asking if Jared's phone was an Obama phone. Of course it is. But as far as everybody asking about my my hat and my shirt, you're not seeing a costume. You're seeing the good old boy that I am. This is exactly how I grew up. I even had the stubble in elementary school. So yes, I spent my youth riding four-wheelers, dirt bikes, and shooting rifles, and loving who and what we are as a people. And we're going to continue doing that. It's a great pleasure to be able to serve with all of you. Remember, Garage Party, 7:15 exactly, 1 hour from now on No White Guilt channel. We love you all, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.